ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jeff's Unknown. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a great time tonight. We're going to talk about a little urban legends. We're not going to go too much in the cryptid part. We're going to go into the stories that, what urban legends are about. I think that, with time, this is like my second live I'm doing here. So I'm going to learn how to, get things going because, like I said, I'm very well established in the French world. I got like almost, how many videos I made? About 300 and something. So I'm really well established. But it's exciting because I can actually start making lives and talk about the paranormal in my own language, right? And it's fun. It's fun because I can explore a little more into that, right? I mean, now I'm going to reach out to some guests. I'm going to try to get people on. I got one that's coming up soon. I don't know when the date. I got a plan. But I got Jared Neal, which is an exorcist, and we're going to go and show you a real exorcism, and we're going to talk about it and everything. It's going to be very interesting for you, for those who have never seen what a real exorcism is. So it's coming. Like, on this page, we're going to talk about all types of subjects, all types of things. But tonight, it's urban legends. Oh, yeah. I love urban legends. It's like, it's like we all know somebody that knows somebody that said, hey, what's his name who went on a fishing trip? Yeah, my God, he saw a huge thing in the water. It's an urban legend. And we find out that lake has some type of creature living in it, like Loch Ness or Champ in Lac Champlain in Vermont. And we do have a little bit a part of Lac Champlain, that's my French, Lake Champlain, which we have a little bit. And my grandfather used to have a camping trailer there in Venise on Quebec. And I remember we used to joke around to be very careful, but you know what? I'm going to tell you something. My grandfather was somebody who was very, 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 very ballsy. He would get on a boat, right? And this is something that my mother told me, and I didn't know about this, but we had a campground. And when I used to go very, very young, there was this beautiful beach, the northern part of Lake Champlain. And at that time, you could actually go swimming. And now it's a little bit polluted, so not many people go anymore. But I remember going there, and my grandfather had a boat, and he used to go fishing, and it was fun. I used to go with him, and how the lake was so cool. And like there are so many things that you don't realize the scale of things. So we were like on the water. I'm looking down. I'm like, I must be like 8, 9 years old, but I remember it and I remember we were on near the shoreline, more closer to the border of the United States. And I looked down in the water and I could see at least 15, 20 feet deep. And it was clear, clear, clear. And I called my grandfather Pop. So Popsy, Popsy, what's that? And he looks, he goes, oh, those are clams. Like that clams they can be all different size, and these things were huge. And I said, holy crap, Grandpa. Popsy, I used to call him Popsy. I said, that they're huge. He goes, yeah. And he says, it's very deep, this lake. I said, oh, wow. So I never thought of it, And then my mother told me something that near the end, when my grandparents sold everything, but my grandfather sold the boat first. And he was such in a rush to sell it. And we didn't know why. I was like, okay. And then later on, about not long after, he sold the camp, everything. And they bought a swimming pool at that time. It was a thing in the 80s. So anyways, to make a long story short, apparently my grandfather went out there. And it's not the first time that happened, because my grandfather comes from Gaspé too. And I'll tell you a little story about that. And this is not even part of the urban legend. This is just because the memory came to me. He went out there on Lake Champlain, and he saw something in the water that scared the bejesus out of him, that he refused to go back on the lake. And we all know that there is an urban legend of Lake Champlain, that there is some type of cryptid. Looks a lot like, apparently, it looks a lot like the Loch Ness monster. So it's maybe the same breed or something, but there is something that people have claimed to have seen. And my grandfather, and he was the type of person who was very proud. He didn't talk about it, but he did say something. And that's where my mother came in. And she says, did you know that your grandfather sold the boat? And it was not because he was fed up with doing boating. It's because what he saw in the water scared him so much that he wanted to get rid of the boat. So imagine he got to see something in the river. Not in the river, but in the Lake Champlain. And it comes down to that too, you know. I mean, like, I remember my grandfather telling me stories because when he was living as a kid in Gaspé growing up, if you don't know where Gaspé is, it's a peninsula of Quebec. It's like where the Gulf of St. Lawrence is. And he used to go in that bay. There's Bay La Chaleur, they call it. And he used to go fishing there. And he remembered he was throwing out the net and stuff like that. And as he was reeling in the net, you know how it is, you know. And he was like, what, 12 years old? And he said he saw this thing that was so enormous that he could, when it passed underneath the boat, he couldn't see the water anymore. He just saw this thing underneath, and it would pass right under him. It was so big. He says, I saw whales, I saw this, I saw that. But he says, this thing was huge, and freaked out my grandfather. So the question is, when you think about these urban legends and you say, you know, maybe, you know, like, maybe they have some certain truth, you know, like they say in every lie, there's some truth. In every truth, there's a lie. In every story, there's an exaggeration, but yet there is some facts. So who knows, right? Because I remember seeing myself in a situation too, and which really scared me too. And I couldn't believe the fact that the signs were there, but I could not see the animal. I couldn't see the creature. And that's where, you know, doing what I'm doing, I go into and I venture off and I study a lot of these cryptids and stuff like that in the paranormal. And this is where people think, you know, sometimes you're crazy, but look at the Aboriginals, look at the First Nations of this country. Okay. Those who have been here for centuries all have some type of story that they share with their children, and they pass it on, right? And they pass it on, but it seems like the story stays intact because it's like you can go to any place where they actually talk about it, and it's like, yeah, well, we saw something like that. We know there's something there. And this is why I came onto a video that creeped the shit out of me. It creeped me out like you wouldn't believe. And it was a story about Bigfoot. Now, you know what? Because of the fact I was in such a rush, I didn't have a chance to download some pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do one at a time here. There is a beautiful, obviously, I completely forgot. Damn. Okay. Well, never mind that then. Bigfoot. So I go on YouTube and I start researching a bit on Bigfoot, and it's unbelievable how much information is on Bigfoot. I mean, it has become, I think, if you want to talk about the cryptid world, the number one thing that people talk about is Bigfoot. And it seems, excuse me, it seems like everybody has a story. Everybody has like something to say about Bigfoot. Why? Because there's so many witnesses. There are so many cases that people have come to these tracks, like these huge tracks of these feet that are like this big and bigger. And what they do is they take some cement and they fill it up, make a mold, and they show it. It's like, holy crap, this thing was huge. And it has feet just like a bit like a human. And the description about it's like half man, half ape. And it's like a 8-9 foot, very muscular thing. Looks like a walking gorilla that looks a bit more like a man, and lives in the forest deep in the northwest. There's some here that been in Quebec, northern Canada, in the States. You wouldn't believe, in the Appalachian Trails, everywhere, like where there could be a remote area where wildlife can be, Bigfoot is there. So I'm listening to this video, and the video, and there's this elder, okay, from a tribe. I think it's in British Columbia, and a native, and he's telling his grandchildren that when you go off into the woods, to be very careful. Now, obviously, that's a good advice, but he says also you have to be very careful of the urban legend of Yeti or Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Those are the names that they give that creature. That they have a territory, and you got to respect it. And if you start hearing banging on wood, so talk, or oof, that type of sound, it's to tell you to back off and go away. And this elder received the same instructions from his grandparents and so forth. So this is something that's generational. So this creature, what we call Bigfoot, has been in existence for a long time. This urban legend, you could say, even though it's urban fact, because there are a lot of remnants and eyewitnesses. But like I said, we won't go too much into it. I want to tell you a story. It's urban legends, right? So this is a story about me, where I'm hiking in northern Quebec. So it's not that northern. It's in the Laurentians, it's called Black Mountain and Montagne Noire for those who are Quebecois. And I was doing the trail there, and it's a beautiful place. It's really nice. And it's rich in history because there was an old airplane crash that happened during World War II, a bomber that was flying too low and crashed right on the side of the mountain. And the remnants are still there. And all the bodies were put into like a little cemetery there. It's a very nice place. If you ever want to go visit, it's a very nice place. But we're on top of the mountain. I'm like, super. Yeah, baby. I did it. I was very happy. So I had two of my other friends, Mario and Ken. Mario is an expert, okay, in hiking. This guy's a gazelle, okay. I'm a big guy, and obviously, you know, my friend Ken, he's more a little more experienced when it comes to certain trails. But me too, I'm pretty experienced. But Mario is the, you know. So Mario knows this place. He's like, yeah, we're gonna go take this trail. And I said, yeah, but that trail looks like it's closed, because it did look like it was closed, but they had trees down, and the trail was like this wide. I'm like, oh my God, it's closed. He goes, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So we're going over trees. We're going under trees. We're going over trees. We're going on the side of the hill, side of the mountain, looking down. You could see the lake there. It's like, holy crap. And we come to this beautiful area where we're on the side of the mountain. And down there's the lake. And up here, there's a stream. There's a little stream. Now, I can't see it, but I can hear the water. I can hear it trickling. So I said, oh, okay. So there's a nice little, whatever. It's a little stream. But like I said, it had to be big enough and a lot and running more, like the water running, so I can hear it, right? So then all of a sudden, I hear whoosh, whoosh, you know, like somebody walking in the water. You know, when you walk in water and you push, and whoosh, whoosh, and you know, look, I'll be honest with you. Out in the woods, there could be anything. Could be deer, could be moose, could be bear. You know, it could be all types of things. But in northern Quebec, usually it's, you know, moose, bear, black bear, could be deer, whatever. Okay, could be another hiker. Well, all I know. But I was like, how can he be up there when the trail is here, right? And it's very rugged up there. So then all of a sudden we all stop, and then like, hey, listen, let's have a drink, because I'm dead tired. You know, like I'm sweating. And all of a sudden, the two of them, Mario says, hey, Jeff, take your time. We're just going to walk down the hill. So they just wanted to walk down because it dipped down. So I'm still on top. So I'm waiting, just drinking, just, you know, and I can hear the water, but then I don't hear the footsteps anymore. So I said, okay, whatever. Paul say, you know. Then all of a sudden, as I'm drinking again, I hear this, whoosh, and I'm like, first thing is like, because I've heard sounds. Like I've been out and I did extreme survival. I know what sounds are: a dog, uh, moose, um, whatever. Okay, but this thing had such a deep voice, and it was penetrating. Because when that whatever it made this noise, I could feel it in my chest. So it was a really deep, deep voice. So I'm looking around. I'm like, what's going on? So automatically I turn to the right and I see where the stream may be. And all of a sudden I'm seeing a branch. Now you see the trees in the back there? Those were about as wide it was. So it's about maybe 8 inches, the tree. But this tree had little branches. So a branch that was maybe 4 inches wide around. And this thing from up completely down to the ground, like something took it and and it was banging the tree so hard on that branch. So as I'm trying to focus, you see I'm wearing glasses. So, I mean, I'm not that blind. I mean, this thing was about 20, 25 feet away from me. And I'm looking and I'm trying to see what it is because behind the tree, I see trees. I can see, right? It's a little bit of an angle, and then you got that stream part. So it's like a little bit of but I could see, but I don't know what's behind the tree because there's nothing behind the tree because the tree's about 8 inches thick in diameter, like the trees you see in the back there. So if there was something that big, obviously that strong, that made it go down, obviously I would see it, but I didn't see it. It was like it was invisible. But again, fourth time. I remember it was the first time. Woof. And I'm like, what's that? Woof again. Woof. I see the thing getting hit a few times. And then the fourth time, I think that's when my reptilian brain said, okay, yeah, Jeff, let's go. Let's get the hell out of here. So woof. And I'm telling you, I grabbed my hiking poles and I ran down there. So Ken and Mario are there and they're looking at me like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, you know, like John Candy in The Great Outdoors. John, I guess I'm a bit like John Candy, right? Big bear. And he can't say it because he's out of breath, right? And I ran down that thing. I ran down and I'm like, bear. It's just like John Candy. Big bear. Well, I mean, I'm like, guys, bear. And like, what are you talking about? Like, and Ken's like, like a chuckle and saying, come on, Jeff. No, I swear to God, I said there's something. And they laugh. All of them laugh at me. And I'm expecting something to be up the hill there about to charge at us. And I'm like, okay, let's get the hell out of here, because my first impressions was bear because of, obviously anything that would be, because I've seen characteristics of a moose, deer, and bear, but something to be that defensive, it was trying to tell me to. So it drops there. And I keep that in the back of my mind. I said, okay, it's one of those things. You just can't explain. You don't know what it is. So then one night I decide to look at a few things on Bigfoot. I don't know. It was maybe a few months later. No, not even a few months later. It was about a year later. Yeah, it was about a year later. I go on and I see that video with the native. And he's telling his kids about the wolf and the big banging of the trees. I said, holy crap. So listen, I'm not here to say what it is. Remember, it's an urban legend. I'm just telling you what I experienced and what I figured out and all the signs. And remember, this was a trail that nobody went on because everybody thought it was closed. So that maybe could have been an area where supposedly maybe there was a Bigfoot or a family of Bigfoot. And the guy was trying to tell him, saying, get the hell away. Because I didn't feel very welcome there. I didn't feel that, and I didn't see anything. And this is where a lot of people who've seen Bigfoot said that they never seen it, and all of a sudden they appear out of middle of nowhere, and right there. It's like, how the hell did you? And then they turn away, walk away, and all of a sudden they can't find them anymore. It's like they have some type of And this is something we're going to talk about another live. I'm actually going to dedicate a live on Bigfoot. I'm going to try to get an expert to come on and we can talk and ask questions, because there are rumors, or maybe, I don't know, a school of thought that maybe these animals have a capacity or an ability to bend light or to be invisible. I don't know, whatever. That they could be interdimensional beings. And they're able to do that. And I don't know, from time to time they can go in and whatever. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I haven't really came up and gave a hug and gave a kiss to one of them. And trust me, I don't think I would want to either. But the fact is that what happened to me out in those woods up north in Quebec was something, I'm telling you. And the woof, the sound was so piercing. It was so strong. I could feel it in my chest. So whatever that was, if it was a moose, I would have seen it. If it was a deer, a bear, I would have seen the bear. Black bears are not hard to miss. You could see them. It was in broad daylight. Like, it was a beautiful location. So I'll tell you, living through that, and especially when, and why is it whenever you're with people and you see something like really weird and you go up to them and say, hey, yeah. And they're like, ha, 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 and they're always laughing. It's always funny, but it's not funny. And it's not like I was on drugs. I don't take drugs. It's not like I was hallucinating. I wasn't taking mushrooms. I wasn't doing those, like, oh yeah, let's go out and visit the seventh realm. No, it wasn't that. It was actually a moment where I felt unwelcome and something was telling me to go away. I didn't feel like my life was threatened, but something did tell me to go away. And I did. And I ran pretty fast for a big guy. And that was my story about Bigfoot. If we can consider that to be a Bigfoot story, but I wanted to share it with you. But I mean, another story I read was something I found very fascinating, and maybe you must have heard it, but it's starting to come out more. It's called the Dogman. I don't know if you ever heard of that. And here, if I could show a picture of Dogman, it will give you an opportunity to understand a little bit more about this cryptid. And there's a nice little urban legend about that. Oh, my daughter, she was like, Daddy, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm trying to get some pictures to show some people. She goes, well, why don't you show this picture? And she goes, that's Dogman. So, the cartoon Dogman. So, no, not that one. This one. So there is an urban legend about this cryptid called the Dogman. And apparently it looks like a werewolf, but it's not a werewolf. And this is something we're going to talk about, the difference between a werewolf and a Dogman. A Dogman is a creature like that on hind legs, and it is looks like a half man, half wolf or dog. But a werewolf is considered to be a curse on somebody who transitions at a full moon, apparently. And there you go. But that's the difference between a wolf man and here. Now, there have been stories that came out of Europe about this French little town in France where people were going missing. And then people got freaked out, and all the men went out with their guns, and they started hunting down this thing that was killing people and children going missing. And people saw this thing that looked like a half man, half wolf. And this was about in 18 something. So this was a long time ago. Even here in Quebec, near Quebec City, it's one of the oldest cities in North America. And when the French were living independently at that time, when it was a French colony, they even wrote about seeing a half man, half wolf like that, kidnapping and killing people. Yeah. It's not a nice creature. It's not. Anybody who comes face to face with one of these things has never, ever, ever said it was a good experience. And these things apparently have a competitive territorial thing between the Bigfoot and these dogmen. And this is where I read this story about these two like this couple. Okay, and these two were hiking and they were doing, like, backpacking, but what they did was go hiking and extreme camping. And the first night they were there, they could hear walking around in the forest, like something was out there, but they didn't know what it was. And you know what? If you ever go out camping and you're around and you can hear a story, like, first of all, when you're out there, your senses are at a maximum. You can hear it. You can hear like a leaf drop. Most of the time, foxes, could be a fox, skunk. Skunks are out there too. But they didn't really pay much attention to it. But they did feel like they were being watched. And it was like one of those feelings, right? Like eventually your imagination, because I remember going camping with a bunch of friends, and a couple of girls came, and we're all guys, we're sitting around the fire. Yeah, 2-3 girls, trying to impress them, So make a nice fire, like Castaway. Look what I have created. Look. And all the girls are, there's bugs and there's mosquitoes. So that night we sit around the fire and we're all talking and we're telling ghost stories, scary stories and stuff. But before, nothing. But at that moment, when everybody starts getting scared, right? People starting to hear things, seeing things. So the imagination starts going. All of a sudden, what's that? I saw something. So the human imagination can be very, very well lit. And that was it. And that, at the time when we were on the campfire, it was so funny because one of the girls started panicking, right? And like, I want to leave. And like, come on. Oh, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And then so I remember one of the girls, I said, let's go. I go, let's go for a walk. We'll go for a walk. You'll be free. You'll be it's okay. So so then when we come back, when she goes out there, she realizes, okay, there's nothing there, So imagine we're like all 14, 15-year-olds, and that's how it is. That's how it is with the human mind. So it was fun, it just, you're trying to impress somebody, you're young and having fun, but the imagination, that's where it gets crazy. And so these people really just said, oh, okay, whatever. They didn't pay no attention to it. But it was the second night and the last night. They pop a tent, they make the whole thing, and then that's when they hear the sound again. And they're like, geez, what is going on? It feels like something followed them. And this time it was no more an imagination. This was actually something that was out there circling their camp. They didn't have much sleep. So in the morning, when the sun came out just a little bit, and they could see everything, then they heard something. And they heard a growl. Something that was outside. Not too close, but far enough, but could hear a growl. Obviously, the guy opens it up, and is frozen with fear. Can't even move. The other girl comes up, looks outside, same thing. Both of them are right there. Like two deer looking at when deer, when they see headlights and all of a sudden they're like, yeah. So they're in fear, and there's this thing that's on like about 20 feet away. Just when they enter the camp area, we can say about 20 feet away, stands this huge, hairy, really nasty looking thing with a dog's face, eyes red, teeth like 6 inches. Okay, I am exaggerating. I don't know. I'm just saying, something that looked exactly like this. Now, I don't know about you, seeing that, I think I would literally shart in my pants, because that thing don't look friendly, and I don't want to meet it ever once. Never. Okay. So anyways, so this was happening, and then all of a sudden this thing is growling, and it's like, it's coming, and it's long nails, and it's coming towards them in their in their tent. Like you could tell it was a predator. All of a sudden, and this is where I found it very interesting, this little story, because this is where two Bigfoot, okay, traditional Bigfoot, tall, and remember, Bigfoot are big too, eh? They're big and strong, and this thing is tall, big and strong too. But because there was two Bigfoot, because having those two fight, I don't know who would win because they're very, very tough. These two Bigfoot come out of nowhere. And I mean, literally nowhere. One seemed to be more taller than the other. So I think it was maybe a male and a female, so a couple. And it stood between them and whatever this thing is. And the thing, and they were starting to like scream, raw. And from what they were saying is that the dog man didn't back down. It was still wanting to, but because it was outnumbered, outstrength, it ran away. But it ran away with such a speed and agility, and not making any noise whatsoever, practically, like almost like the perfect predator. This thing took off so fast. But then all of a sudden, these two are in the tent, right? And they're looking at these two big creatures right in front of them, like about 5 feet in front of them. Because remember, they went between them and the dog man. So now they're saying, okay, so we got one thing gone. We got now two of them. Did we just lose one problem to gain two more? And the two, and from what they were saying is that the two Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you call them, turned around and looked at him and then started walking off. And a sigh of relief and the fear slowly melted away. And they could still move. Now they can move now. And they had the impression that the Bigfoot was there to protect them. And maybe the rustling sound, like, the things that were circling around their camp, maybe were the Bigfoot protecting them while they were sleeping, keeping an eye on them, because they knew that the territory that these two people were going into maybe was a territory that belonged to the dogmen, because it has been said that the dogmen and the Bigfoot share territory, like predators, like regular, or like there are territory between hyenas and lions, right? So this right there, when they packed up their stuff, they bolted out of there. They felt being watched when they left, but when they got in, they never went back. But they couldn't get over the fact of the two creatures that they saw, and the compassion in which these Bigfoot showed towards the humans, because there's not always a good relationship too with Bigfoots too. So I think that if you're looking at Bigfoots, there may be some, just like humans, good and bad. But from their account of what they saw that was going to attack them was something out of this world. They could not describe what they saw. I mean, obviously, when you look at it, you think of a werewolf, but even then, the sheer size and power and aggressivity, and that what really brought that to me as a wow. Okay, so even amongst cryptids too, there's territory, there's dominance, and who knows where these things come from. But there have been reports of dogmen all over through the country. Maybe not as much as Bigfoots, but enough that people have saw them, and some of them have claimed that they've been stealing their chickens, their dogs. They're mostly located near rivers or bodies of water. So these are the things that make it fascinating about the dogmen. That would be nice to have a little more about the dogmen. That if they do exist in large amounts of areas, that maybe we have to be very careful with them. Maybe they're the ones we got to be worried about, not the bears. That maybe, yeah. Because a lot of people saying, where do these things come from? Who knows? And that's something we're going to explore too. I'll do another live about the dogman, just the dogman. This is a crash course. This is something I want you guys to look and, have an idea what these urban legends are and these cryptids, so we can talk about it later on and say, you know what? Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to do some research about dogmen. I want to find out more. Or I think I saw something like that. Or Jeff, maybe I got the same experience when you were up in the mountain there on that hillside right there. And that woof, I had the same thing too, and I didn't see anything. So, it's good that people can document it, but talk about it too. Because if people do experience things like that, it's important that we document it. Because if we're looking at an old lost species that once existed or exist in a different realm, a dimension, or live maybe subterranean, or who knows, maybe they're experiments. Maybe they're human experiments and they're leashed in the wild. And maybe they're waiting to see what they're going to do. Maybe creating the perfect soldier. I mean, if you make a whole army of those things, damn, good luck killing those, man. So that's what where the next cryptid I'd like to talk about. And we've all probably seen it. It's something that, first it came out. It came out into the on the computer, and they talk about it's called the rake. And it's something like this. Yeah, sorry about the image. I know it's not really friendly looking there, but apparently, now I don't think that's a real image, but this is the closest accurate depiction of what it is, what we call a rake. And who says that maybe it is a real picture of it? But people have said to have seen those things. But this, I don't think it's something that has been here for a long time. I think it's only recent, even though on the internet, but who knows? Maybe somebody, like an Easter egg, like saying, well, maybe those things exist and we'll make a little fun about it. But then all of a sudden people are actually seeing it in real life, and they have. And this story I'm going to tell you is going to be creepy as hell. It's about this hunter that goes out in his spot all the time. He's up on this little, on the tree line. He's up there and he's looking around, and it's, it's dusk. It's coming down. The sun is coming down. You could barely see, but you're starting to see a little bit, haze. So he takes a cigarette and says, okay, after my cigarette, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to my camp, which is maybe 500 feet away, half a kilometer, about a kilometer. I don't know. So then he sees something out in the woods right over there. And he sees something white walking through the trees. And it was a silhouette like a man walking. He says, okay, there could be a hunter, but hunters wear these orange vests because it's the law. You have to. But it wasn't wearing that. It was all white. So he took his binoculars, but even binoculars you can see, but you can't really see in definition. So it looked like a silhouette of a person, but all white. And he found that very weird. It's like, okay, maybe it's some guy walking around, or maybe it's something, I don't know. But for him, this guy's been hunting for years. So there's nothing that really scares him out in the woods, right? And trust me, he has like a 308 or something, something that can knock down a moose or deer. Trust me. Okay. There's nothing really scaring him. So he just gets down and he gets into, his little, I don't know, 4x4, whatever. And he drives up there, and his thing's like almost a little bit up on a hill. And he's getting off, and he looks back. He feels like something he has to look back, and he looks back. That very same silhouette where it was in the woods was now located where he was originally. Okay, where he was up in the tree. So it was on the ground, and he sees it there, and so he takes his binoculars again. He doesn't see very well, so he takes his rifle and he looks at his scope, and the scope has perfect, and he looks and he sees this thing. that has the same shape, same arms, legs as a human being. Very long arms, though, long legs, white as milk, and no hair, and these eyes that actually kind of like flicker, like just like this, identical to that. And it's looking up where he was once, and you could see it's looking around, and all of a sudden it turns its head quick and it looks towards him. And now he sees it looking at him as if it can see very far. And all of a sudden he sees this thing dash towards him, and it's running fast, very fast. He doesn't know what to do. He says, well, shit, I'd rather just shoot it because I don't know what it is, right? So he aims that damn rifle, and he's been shooting for years, remember. He fires off a shot. It goes flying towards the thing. The thing doesn't stop. It's like the bullet just went right through him or didn't even touch him. Then he gets off another round, right? It's a bolt action. So he's going and he shoots again, and the bullet goes flying. No effect. And he knows he hit him. Because listen, come on. This is a hunter that's been hunting for years. So he knows, like a running deer, bang. He knows how it is. Damn thing won't die or fall or get hit, whatever. This thing is running extremely fast, faster than he can anticipate. He just had enough time to turn around and run into his pickup truck, close the door, and all of a sudden this thing is standing 5 feet right in front of his truck, right there. And he couldn't see it. And it's looking at him, and the eyes are absolutely, the eyes are petrifying. You look at that, and it's just reflecting light, and it's big eyes, no hair, and it's tall and long fingernails, and this thing looks like it comes from a horror film. Okay, this thing looked like it woke up from hell and crawled up Satan's ass and found its way up here. This is what I'm talking about. He was so scared that thing was going to, I don't know. He starts his truck. The thing doesn't move. The thing is fixed on him. No matter what he does, the thing is just fixed. Guess what he does? Screw this. Hits the gas, goes right off. And the thing, okay, the rake, what I call the thing, the rake, whatever you call it, jumps up, misses the truck just by like maybe an inch, jumps up way above, and falls on the ground behind the truck as it's taking off. And he could see it in the mirror, and this guy is taking off, and this thing gets up and starts running towards him. But because it's a truck, he's going fast like hell. Then all of a sudden, he sees the silhouette getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The thing gave up. But imagine, his camp's there. His four-wheeler's there. He ain't going back. He did go back eventually after a few days with a few people. Now, obviously, you'll never go alone. But what he saw was unexplainable. He could not explain it. He could not fathom the fact that what he saw was not human. He shot 2 shots, and the thing did not fall. He didn't kill it. This thing ran super fast and had eyesight like weird, and all he could sense was this thing was pure evil. And this was a true story I read on the internet about this hunter coming face to face with something so nasty like that. So as I said earlier, these urban legends, these stories that I'm saying, you know, when you think about it, where do these things come from? Where do they come from? Who knows? But for sure that people who do witness and live through these things, that see them with their own eyes, even them have a hard time believing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what an urban legend is. Something lived, passed on from story to person to person to person. But in truth, there was a connection that someone has with something completely out of their norm. And who knows, like I said, These creatures may have lived once upon a time, and maybe they were the creatures that roamed the earth, just like we are now, when they found themselves extinct, or maybe on the brink of being extinct, obviously. Or who knows, that maybe they're medical experiments. Who knows? But for a fact is that people now, that more and more people are venturing off into these remote areas, are starting to discover new life, new species. And like the ocean, right? We only explored 6%, 4 to 6%, and finding new species, thousands of species. Well, who knows that maybe there are these humanoids that live parallel with us in areas that are remote and safe for them in their environment. And when we go into their environment, we are the ones that become the threat. And maybe that the reason why they react the way they do is in a form of defense. You never know. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my nice little urban legends. A little live like that, a little story going around the fire. I bet you got all the lights on at home, don't you? You'll be sleeping with the light on, don't you? That's okay. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? But I'll tell you one thing, though. That little experience I had up on the hill, I will never forget that. That sound, that sheer strength, and nothing but trees. I couldn't see anything else. It was weird. So, ladies and gentlemen, please like and subscribe. It goes far a long ways because I really need it. I need to build this page. I need to venture off, but I'll tell you one thing. It'll be my way. It'll be fun. We're going to smile, laugh, cry, whatever. But I'm going to tell you one thing, though. Exploring the unknown together is something that we will always discover. You know what we'll discover? Ourselves. Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes us unique. Is that the unknown is part of who we are. Have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Because without you, I'm talking to myself so far. Take care, everyone. Bye.